Hey everybody, it's Monday, July 6th, 2020. Tony Botchgalupo, Newark City's weekly Q&A underway. Got Meredith, Sina, and Justin here. Um, let's get straight into it. Let's see where everybody's at, see what we want to talk about today. Meredith, I'm going to start with you, then we'll go to Sina and Justin. Meredith, take it away.
Hey y'all, happy Monday. Let's see, I'm trying to think. Holiday weekend, so that was nice. Yeah, we're just chugging along. We're, slowly reopening, taking our time. I've done some research on, as we do this, what's the best way to communicate comfort levels for everybody and to make sure everybody's feeling safe in the space. So I found some cool things that I'm gonna test out this week. So I'm happy to delve into that if y'all are interested. Other than that, still working on kind of revamping our marketing and branding to make it a bit more accessible and informative.
Great. Okay, yeah, I would definitely like to get into that topic for sure.
Okay.
Good. And I would love to continue what we talked about previously around your marketing. So we'll definitely spend time on that.
Okay.
Awesome. Great. Sina.
Hello. Yeah, holiday weekend was good. We had our first COVID test last week, so we are done with that one. I can tell you all about it. I'm gonna leave for Germany on Wednesday, so I'm just getting ready to have Alex be on top of everything that's going to happen when I'm gone. So yeah, not much to that. So
When you say COVID test, you mean a positive test
yep,
or?
yep,
Whoa, wow.
yeah. Hey, you need to try everything out, you need to get through everything. So we did that now.
That is a perspective. All right, I'm definitely I'll come right back to you to ask you about that. I want to hear everything. Great. Justin, how's things going for you?
It's going all right. We're in kind of an interesting place because we're in close proximity. Well, we're about a 3-hour drive from LA, and 4th of July weekend up here, everybody decided that they wanted to get out of LA, and they all came up here. So doesn't exactly make us feel very safe, but you just got to do what you got to do. So we're the county I'm in just had to backslide in terms of the restrictions. So we've had the ability to like dine in restaurants for a month or so now, and that got taken away. Bars closed, a lot of other things closed. And I just got the new guidance for office workspaces, so I'm looking through that to see what effect that's going to have on us. Specifically, but it does kind of change the atmosphere, and I'm hoping that the the kind of group of people that weren't taking it seriously, maybe all of these changes will make them take it more seriously. But yeah, and then still kind of like we discussed last week, still looking at kind of the future. Not trying to get out of the right now and trying to look into the next few months as much as we can, and the next year, and trying to see if we can take advantage of this workplace flexibility that's really kind of permeating our culture now, and see if we can just kind of get ahead of that a little bit. Yeah, just trying to just trying to take advantage of that.
Right. And so are you it's a funny kind of a contrast because we kind of want to attract people from LA, right? But there's kind of these health implications of having too many people coming from a hot spot. So where do you land in terms of what you're wanting to have happen in the short term or medium term?
So what I think I've landed on is I'm not a huge fan of the people that come up for 1 or 2 days, from coming up from their petri dish and going into our gas stations and our grocery stores and all that, and then leaving and going back home, and then, you know, lather, rinse, repeat the next weekend or something like that. What I would prefer is for people to say, hey, rather than being, you know, cooped up in my sardine can, stacked up on top of other people, maybe I want to find a better place to live and a better way to live. And so they choose to make this their new home. And we've been seeing actually a lot of that. I've been kind of, since I created the cowork, one of the reasons I created Kernville Cowork was to kind of act as a magnet for those types of people that wanted to live outdoors near all the outdoor opportunities, but also have those high demand jobs. And I've got 3 new members right now that are all moving to this area and are either in escrow or just closed escrow on purchasing a house. And so I think those are people that are coming up here permanently. They're going to have a lot more respect for our area, a lot more respect for the people, and care more about it than people that can come up for a day or two and not have to deal with any of the consequences or fallout from any of their actions. So that's kind of where I land on it. I know there's a lot of business owners around me that feel otherwise, but you know, we're all just trying to do the best we can.
Yeah, absolutely. It seems like the obvious answer is that there's just such a great opportunity to really emphasize the remote worker and kind of this urban exodus that we're going to be seeing happening in a lot of places that we're already seeing. I already know several good friends, longtime New Yorkers who are leaving. So um, yeah, and actually, you know, LA area is one thing, but even people coming from maybe other parts of the world too, who end up, you know, wanting to be approximate to LA maybe. So maybe we could talk more about how to play with the marketing around that as well.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about it last week a little bit with you know, connecting with people in LA and doing all that. Do you have any updates in that regard? I know we were going to talk more about connecting to my friend, but did you have any other thoughts on connecting to LA people?
No, other than that I've gained a couple of more contacts and connections that I may use in the same way. I do kind of like as much as possible to use other people as amplifiers. I find that works a lot better than paying for ads and you know, trying to um, you know, kind of more traditional advertising. I think having people that are really advocates, I think really does help with that.
Relationships go a super long way. Absolutely. I know, you know, I mean, in the in-person days, I would say, you know, going to events and meeting people in person and having those conversations is a big deal. But even virtually, if there's a way that you can attend virtual events, you know, that's good. Or I don't know if you have any inclination towards doing like interviews on the internet, but you know, such a tried and true method of accessing someone else's audience is to interview them, do it over video or audio, put it on the internet, and then tag them in your social posts, and then hope that they repost your thing. You know,
Hmm.
so everyone's, you know, like for my friend Esprit, like if you interview Esprit and then she reposts your thing, then her community sees that you exist, right? So I feel like there's some opportunity there. Um, yeah, that's maybe something we can dive into more. Is that of any interest to you, like doing interviews, things like that?
Yeah, I've kind of considered different ways of creating content like that. My greatest fear with doing anything like that is if I start putting content out there, then you start feeling like you have to put out content, and you it kind of creates this it almost feels like a burden, like you have to create more content, and
Yeah.
if I don't feel like I have enough, then I'm hesitant to jump into it. But yeah, it's
Yeah,
probably
it's
just my own hangups.
yeah, and I think it's a fair point. It probably makes more sense if you're doing it as part of a larger content strategy. That even if you are intending to do a limited series of content, that you try to um, frame it that way so that people don't have some expectation that you're going to be doing frequent things. It might be, for example, like you say, I'm going to like chart out like 5 of the best community leaders in the LA area as part of a series for a month. And then like that's it. It's a limited run or whatever. But I see what you
Mhm.
mean in terms of, you know, not wanting to just do it sporadically, but want to layer it into a larger strategy. That makes sense. Um, yeah. Okay, cool. Well, maybe we jam on it some more today if we've got some time. It sounds fun. Cool. All right, everyone's introduced themselves, Penny, except for you. So I'm gonna go to you. Hello, welcome. And what is on your couch? Because it looks really cool.
It's this cool blanket that somebody gave me when my kids were young, and it's called How to Really Love a Child. And it's got all these things about how to have fun and just chillax with a child.
Wow,
I
that's
don't say very
beautiful.
many things, but I saved that because it's so true. You want to just have fun and really enjoy them.
Wow, that's incredible. I love it.
Thank you.
Oh, it is
So yeah,
Sark.
I'm
I
an
just looked it up. I know that artist, Sark.
sorry, I didn't hear you.
The artist that made that, I recognize her handwriting. It's Sark. It's this woman, Sark. She makes these wild books that are just like it's it's a really beautiful, distinct style, just like what you're describing. I'm just geeking out. Sorry, artist me is geeking out over here.
Um, So yeah, here in Erie, PA, I don't know. I mean, I guess my concerns are somewhat different than your all's because we don't have people just coming from outside of Erie, right? So anybody who's here is they're a therapist, and so people don't even come for like a day pass. So it's, you know, it really is different than other co-working spaces. But um, I have figured out, you know, something that maybe is intuitive to you guys, but I have figured out recently that, you know, there's all these kind of programs that I'm thinking about putting together to get people to come at like the $70 or $80 a month level. But really, rather than spending time on all that, and I want to eventually, but right now I should probably be finding people who already have a private practice and getting them to transfer their practice to Thrive Therapy Space, because then they come in at a much higher level as far as, you know, the monthly income. So that just has occurred to me recently that I should prioritize that, spend my money on getting higher level members, or, you know, members who pay more, before I spend time on these programs to get members who pay less.
Yeah, well, I guess that's if you can, if there's territory there for you to traverse that doesn't require tremendous effort, then absolutely. I think it's just a matter of like how much do you pump a certain well before it starts to dry up and you got to try different methods, right? So like but if you think that the effort to return ratio is better there, awesome, absolutely.
I mean, it potentially is. And, you know, one of the things I haven't necessarily done a good job at is kind of staying in touch with, or reconnecting with people. Like they get my update email every, you know, 2.5 months or something like that. But there are some people who did seem to be somewhat interested at some point in time, and like really getting back to them systematically, you know, routinely, I think is a good thing. So I think there's some people in the well that I haven't already accessed recently.
Absolutely, yeah. And you know, if it's always a good idea to have some kind of routine for going back to old contacts, going back to former customers, going back to people who went, you know, took a tour of your space 2 years ago and never signed up, you know, and if you could find some friendly way to reach out that isn't straight up sales, just to be like, hey, how's it going? Maybe inviting them to something that's free that you're offering or something, you know, just like any kind of excuse to start the conversation so that it's not purely sales oriented, or to just, you know, you could go the other way, just be like, hey, just want to check in, see how it's going. If you're interested in a spot, you know, I'm running the promotion, and just be, you know, honest about it. But yeah, those, I feel like there's some of the easiest money is in those like people that you haven't reached out to in a while that maybe their status has changed, and all you need is, you know, 2 out of 100 to be, you know, or whatever it is. You only need a small fraction of them to be to convert for it to be worth it. You might even be 2 out of 10 if it's a really qualified list. uh, so what would be your next step there? Do you have you kind of got your target audience in mind?
I do. Like, I have my list ready to print out. I'm just trying to find a balance. I mean, many of you have other jobs also, right? And kind of finding that balance between um, working on my other job and then having enough time for Thrive. And so, like, Thrive is doing fine, but there really are probably some low-hanging fruit that I haven't been accessing because I've been so busy with my other job. So yes, I do have, my next step is to print out my list, because I have kind of massaged it, print out my list, and then start to kind of systematically be getting in touch with, there are probably 20 people who would be a good first step to be in touch with them.
Great. I love it. It's a great exercise. Cool. You're reminding me.
I am thinking about a special, like, maybe 1 month off if you join by the end of July, or, I mean, I have these ideas about it. I'm not exactly sure what special to run.
Okay, well, maybe that's something we can play with. I mean, I think it sounds like the audience you're talking about, you're really not going after the kind of like, let's warm them up to the community thing. It sounds more like it's a very direct, if you want to move offices, move to my office. Here's a deal. I'm going to offer you something, right? At which point, then it becomes about what's a new customer worth to you, and what are you willing to give up to entice a potential customer. Like I feel like I've always have like a stock offer that's kind of like, X dollars off the first X months. And that's just kind of like always something that I know that I can afford to give away, because it's generous enough up front that it might get somebody to pull the trigger. And then, if I know they're likely to stick around a while, then it's easier for me to give up some of the money up front. Do you have any idea kind of what your churn rate is like how long do members stick around?
So far, they've stuck around. I mean, so far people became members, and we launched on September 3rd last year, and we haven't lost any members.
Right. So, because wow, cool. Right. That's actually really, really great.
One woman was going to leave. She was at the $65 a month level, and she said she was going to leave. And I said, because it was the beginning of COVID, and I said, okay, how about you just stay? I'll give you 2 months free, and then we'll restart you at the lower level. And then she stayed. So I haven't actually lost anyone.
That's great. That's so great, Penny. Way to rock the retention. I feel like we need a retention masterclass from you.
Oh, I don't know. Sometimes I just feel like it's luck. I mean, I do develop relationships with people, and I know that's very important. But then also, there's some luck involved too. Just on, I don't know. As psychotherapists, we're considered essential workers, so haven't had people just like disappearing like some of the other co-working spaces.
Sure. Yeah. But still, like 100% retention over 8 or 9 months is like miraculous. So,
Good.
well, because the reason I'm asking is because part of how you figure out what you're willing to offer, and ultimately it's a gut decision for you at the scale that you're at, is calculating what a member's lifetime value is worth, right? So if a member gives you $300 a month for 10 months, they're worth $3,000, and then you figure out kind of what your margin is. So if you say, okay, I make 20% margin on every member once I deduct all my expenses, in theory, right? Then I make $600 per member. So then, like the real business people applying this at scale would say, if I pay $599 to get a $600 member, I will spend $599 to get that member, and then just get thousands and thousands of members at that level, right? Obviously, it doesn't work that way at our scale, but you could say, okay, if I profit $600 for every member that signs up, then I can maybe allocate some portion of that to getting more customers. And this is important because, if we're talking about like, $30 a month members, I can't really invest a lot in those members because I might only make $100, $200, $300 off of them. So maybe I can do a wider but less per head. I'd spend 50 cents a dollar per sign up, or whatever. But for a higher value client, if you know that once somebody signs up, they tend to stay for a really long time, then it's easier for you to justify investing a greater expense in each highly qualified potential customer, right? So, like the other thing is, so there's like, how much would I pay for a new customer? But then there's how much would I pay to attract a potential customer, knowing that a fraction of those is going to convert, right? And that's how the kind of the numbers play out. So, if you've got a really, really deeply qualified set of people where, there's 20 people, you expect that you're going to be able to convert a few of them, then you might say, I'm going to invest fairly heavily in each one of these people. I might send them a personalized package, or I might take them out to lunch, or, offer them half off for the first 2 months, or whatever it is, just like really gives them something generous, or everything that I just said, right? Like really wine and dine the crap out of them, because one of them could end up, making a big difference in your bottom line for a long time. So yeah, I think that's kind of the mental framework I would approach it with. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, and I'm thinking, so I do have one advantage, I think, at Thrive, and that is that the people who are using the offices at Thrive, right? So we've got 10 people. It's really hard to change your location as a therapist, because you've got these insurance panels, and it's really hard to change your location. It's not like you can just file one little mail slip and then you can move someplace else. No, people are like kind of embedded in where we are. So that, I think, over time will help me keep people, because it's hard to change your address as a therapist.
Do we, is that something you can help people with?
Helping people change their address?
Yeah, like walking them through the process so that it's less painful and arduous.
Well, actually, I met with somebody this morning, and you're talking about not spending too much time on people that aren't going to be as valuable. And I have to keep reminding myself of that, because this woman, she's going to come on at the lowest level, although she does want to become a therapist and she does want to eventually practice at Thrive. Now, different things could get in the way between now and then. But yes, that is part of one of the programs that I want to develop, is like, how do you start a private practice, and help really walk people through that, because they just get so overwhelmed by it.
Sure. Yeah, that might be where you can say, okay, this is worth investing in, but because the value of the customer isn't as high, unless you think that it will, put you on track, if you feel confident that it will lead to that down the line, then is there a way that you can provide value there without a tremendous amount of labor on your part? For example, could you create a blog post or a pre-recorded video with your step-by-step on how to do it, so that you do it once, and then every time somebody needs help with it, you kind of point them to that resource, so then the amount of work for you is streamlined, something. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's a great idea. I like that idea a lot, right? To streamline things. And I'm trying to do that in other areas. I hadn't thought about that with like video, or like onboarding people. Although you guys probably mentioned that a year ago, but I am starting to use Trello. Does anybody here use Trello?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I am starting to use Trello to try to start to streamline things, because otherwise, even onboarding somebody, there's so many different steps and different pieces to get them into this system and that system. And I got to get their license, and I want to get their liability insurance, whatever. There's just so many different steps. And so I am trying to streamline things and keep reminding myself not to spend too much time on the people who are coming in at the lowest level, because I tend to just be just as friendly and spend just as much time with everybody, but I really should be more targeted.
Yeah, well, and like you can be friendly with those people, right? And you can put energy, and you just want to be efficient with how you allocate that energy. That's part of why, like in my invitation funnel, we talk about one really, really good free event a month. That's the word of mouth generator, attractor kind of thing, because then you get to put all your energy into that one event. And every time you meet somebody who isn't a high level prospective customer, you can just say, hey, come to my thing. This is when I'm generous. I'm generous the third Thursday of every month at 7 p.m. So please come enjoy my generosity on that day. And if you can't make it, tough noogies, but that's when I'm generous. And, I'm happy to be generous then, and then you're just, or like somebody emails you asking, cause I get this a lot and I don't handle it as much as I would like to. But I've tried to learn from people like Alex Hillman does this really well, where when somebody who isn't going to pay him emails him asking him for a question, it's going to take him a lot of time to answer. He'll answer the question, but then he'll take his answer and then turn it into a blog post. And then the next time somebody asks him that question, it's easier for him to just be like, oh yeah, check out this blog post. And then it's, he can still be equally helpful, even if better helpful, because then what ends up happening, as I've done, is that when the 10,000th co-working person emails me saying, what's the best software platform, I just don't bother to respond because I've already drained my well of my generosity, as opposed to if I can just say like, oh yeah, no problem, I'm happy to help you. Here's my website with all my tips. P.S. There's a newsletter and some products you can buy, right? Like that's a pretty, easy way to provide someone value with minimal effort. So I think you're seeing that bifurcation of the lower value customer being generous and being, helpful, but streamlining minimizing the amount of ongoing effort you have to make in directing to existing constructs versus the higher end curated big dollar amount client where you actually justify investing more of your time and energy. Yeah. And I would say, it extends to local relationships as well. So that what Justin was talking about, in my map of the network that each of us has, in Justin's case, I would say like, I don't want just a relationship with all the local businesses, which I want also, but I also want relationships with the people that can be our ambassadors, our liaisons in Los Angeles, since it's just such an important part of the feeding, right? But I think where we invest a lot of our energy is in those high level relationships and with the high level potential clients. So that all makes a lot of sense to me. Cool. So, okay, what's the next step? You're going to print your 20 names and go after each of those and then let us know how it goes. And then
Yes.
maybe look out for ways to streamline those lower end potential customers.
Yes.
Cool.
Good. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. All right. This is great. Thank you for that, Penny. I want to move back to Sina and what she was telling us about her positive test, and then back to Meredith and kind of close the loop on the marketing. We were just talking about marketing stuff, but maybe Meredith, by the time we get back to you, we'll have a fresh perspective on it. But Sina, first, can you tell us a little bit more about what's going on with your space and the positive test?
Yeah, we received an email, a text last Sunday night, like probably it was like around 10, that one of my husband's employees who works from Hunt Street most of the time from the building, contracted that he was in touch with a positive person. And so we were, mostly me, all freaking out on Sunday night because, Sunday night, where do you get a test? Nowhere. And so we sent out an email we sent out an email on Sunday that a person at Hunt Street was in touch with somebody, but we are going to get tested. So we just sent out an email to let people be aware of that there might be something happening. And then on Monday, and Alex went to Hunt Street and put a sign up that we are not there, but we didn't wrote in that sign that we are not there because of the virus. We just said, hey, we are out of the office. Just if you need something, let us know. And then on Monday, I think on Monday it was like 5 people who got tested. I was in touch with that person. My husband was in touch with that person. Other people were in touch with that person. So they all got tested. And Monday afternoon, we did know that the person was positive too. By that time, the rapid test for me already showed negative, but we also scheduled like a normal test because I'm not too fond of the rapid test. I'm just not 100% accurate. So we, like the people who were in touch with him, got tested. Some of them got tested again, and so he is the only person who is positive, and all of us are negative. And like, I mean, we doubled up. I mean, we got like 2 tests, and so on Monday we sent out an email and said like, hey, one of the members definitely has it, but luckily he was only at the building twice last week and was mostly working outside. He wasn't even inside. And so we extended the loop to the people who were in touch with him. And so it was actually, besides my husband's company, it was only one person and Alex and me who were in touch with him from Hunt Street. And so it was quite good for us, a good outcome. But so we sent out another email and said like, hey, we got tested, we are negative, he is positive. And then we wrote in our email too that we want to make sure that we are definitely not positive. So we told everybody that Alex and I stay away for the week or till we get our results from the second test. And people were like happy about that. And then when we got the other one on Wednesday or even like Tuesday night, I can't remember, went out another email that all the people by that point, I think 10 or 12 people got tested, were all negative. So the chances that somebody else would have it at Hunt Street is really low. And so people were really happy with our response because we told them like, hey, when he was at the office, and then we actually did got like responses of 2 people like, hey, I got help by this young guy with glasses. Is it possible that was him? So then we called that person, asked him if he helped that person, and then he was like, yes. So she got tested. So I would say we were, of course, lucky with what has happened, but we also, because he got the notice on Sunday night, we already had our deep cleaning crew coming on Saturday. And so it was already, everything was like, we have a person who comes in every day, but then on the weekends we have like deep cleaning. And so it was, because we heard about it so late, everybody at Hunt Street was already like, oh, this is okay. I mean, it got cleaned. Everything is fine. So we didn't even need to close Hunt Street or anything because he was in touch with 2 little people. All the people got in 2 days, all the negative tests back. So yeah, people were happy with us, I would say. I don't want to go through it again anytime soon because it just freaks you out if you would have given it to somebody else. And so, but yeah, only positive feedback from our first positive case.
Wow. It seems like as awful as this is, it went as well as it could have after the
Yes.
fact, and you've handled it as well as you could. Any kind of like reflections as to how you plan to do this going forward, or what you would recommend to other people in this call who may be facing their first positive test or their first exposure sometime down the line?
So I said it before, but we have like sign-in waivers. So people need to take their temperature every day before they come in. And so with that, we were also able to just go through the emails and see who signed in that day. And so that way you can already like give the people who like maybe hyper protective, tell them already like, don't worry about this. You were not there. Don't worry. And so that was quite good that we had that in place. And I just be honest with the people without trying to freak them out. I mean, people were really happy with like us sending them an email and then seeing that we got tested twice. I mean, of course, you do the rapid test because you don't want to wait 5 days to tell other people you have COVID. So get the rapid test because it's so fast, it's quick. So you have the first result, and then tell them to because it made everybody feel so much safer that we told them we got tested twice. With the normal test, it takes like 2 to 5 days or 2 to 7 days to come back. That made people like feel so much safer that they just had the feeling with that just testing twice, they had the feeling that we took it really serious. And then we wrote in our email that the deep clean already happened without like even knowing about the COVID case in that moment. And so I think people are just really happy about the communication to give them the feeling that you take it serious. And then of course you just need to have it cleaned, deep cleaned, and track down who might have been in the building. I mean,
right. Okay. It sounds like it sounds like what you're doing is you're being transparent and you're taking it seriously, but also not freaking out.
yes.
So you're basically being professional and even keeled about it. And I feel like people want to feel a sense of transparency and honesty coming from you, because it's a show of security.
Yeah.
If you're hiding stuff, then it indicates to someone that you do not feel secure about the situation, which they're going to feel insecure about. But then also that you're signaling to them with your energy, hey, I'm not freaking out about this, and you shouldn't be either. We're handling it. We're going through a protocol that we've established. It's, and remain calm, and we're available if you have questions. And you didn't have anybody freaking out on you, basically.
No, I mean, I personally was freaking out, but I just didn't show anyone. I mean, I'm supposed to go to Germany on Wednesday, and I'm like already freaking out about that because I'm not really happy to travel right now. But I was like, of course this is happening now. And then of course you get paranoid and you're like, oh, I sneezed like 3 times now, and all that stupid stuff that you do when you are not certain what is really happening. But if you be transparent enough and then tell your people like, I'm staying away from the office because I want to wait till I have the second test results, that just makes people believe in you so much more, because you're
Right.
like, you went one step further. We could have just been done with the rapid test and be like, yeah, it's not 100% accurate, but as you can see, the person who was positive was positive. We could have like stayed with that, but I was like, no, I want to get the second test too. And I made like Alex take the second test too, because I just wanted to make sure before we return to the building that we are okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully the fact that you're testing negative means you can travel, feeling safe about your own self.
I mean, I'm going to get another test this afternoon just to be 100% sure, because the test is a week old and I stayed at home all the time. I already decided to be in shelter before I leave, but of course you never know what's happening on the airplane.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, yeah, for sure.
But I get tested in Germany too after I arrived, to make sure that I didn't, like, after 2 days, I will get tested and make sure that I didn't get it on the plane. So, and I will not see anybody till then. But yeah, no, traveling with this thing is not the best.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Godspeed to you on that. And thank you for sharing that process, that experience with us. I think, the more that we can kind of destigmatize the experience of this, even the hard experiences of, hey, if you're gonna reopen, then you're gonna have a positive test at some point.
Oh,
there's no.
This will not be the last one. This
No,
is the first one.
Yeah, we're only a few weeks into this at most. So,
I do have a question. Sina, did you notify all of your members or just the people that had like a time frame of contact?
No, we sent out an email to all
All
people.
members? Okay.
Yeah, just that they, like, in case somebody forgot to sign in and we weren't there, something like that. Because I mean, sometimes when you just run in the office to grab something, I mean, I can't blame people that they forgot to sign in that moment. But no, we sent out like the email out to everyone, and then people just came back to us who had the feeling that the person might have been near them. And so that was like all. No, you should actually always send something like this to all people, because that all people can see how you handle it. To just send it to the people who might were in touch with him is like, it gives other people the feeling that you are hiding something. And so just send it to all. Like, it turns out to be better that way, because if people would find out afterwards, like, oh, we had a positive test and nobody told us, it's like,
Yeah.
No, that's great to hear, because I've heard other companies kind of do varied responses to that, and I'm siding like on your better communication, clear. I think I agree. It's better off overall.
So does anybody have any more questions on this? Because I think it's actually pretty relevant to everybody in one way or another. Yeah.
I mean, I just want to say, it sounds like you guys are doing everything right. And I think that's something, not to just pat yourself on the back too hard, but I mean, it sounds like it's something to celebrate. And I think it sounds like it's something that your members are already celebrating and noticing. So just kudos for that.
So Meredith, I want to, while we still have some time, come back to where we kind of started things and just get an update. Do you want to give us a little bit more of an in-depth update on what you've been up to and what's next?
Sure. So Kentucky has entered their newest phase of reopening. So that's pretty much almost everything. And then gatherings of 50 people or less, but like bars can be open and you're supposed to be socially isolated. And after this holiday weekend, I'm just like, ooh, I saw pictures and it made me super nervous. So I was like, okay, well, what can I do within our space? Because we are a controlled space, that will make people feel more comfortable. Because a couple of members have come up to me and, you know, we have notices on the building and within our space, and we share it with our members about like our recommendations, what we request for them to do. We have not required masks, but we do ask for them to wear them in common spaces. And I've had a couple members come up and say like, you know what, I'm thinking with everything that's going on, like I need to do better. And it's more of like this community effort of realizing like we've been pretty chill, but like respectful of everybody. So like there's been so few people in our 3 floors, like most of the time you're not coming close to somebody. And if you are, people are wearing masks, or if you're walking and you don't have it on and you see somebody coming, people will put it on. But it's just kind of like, it's not 100% a habit yet. So other members have started to notice, like when I go in the common space, like I'll wear mine to try and set a good example, but you still have this, like, there's a couple people that are like, masks, I'm fine. And you know, it's kind of a tough conversation to approach without mandating it, which at this point we haven't. But I did see this. Let me see if I can send it in the chat. I did find this the other day. I think it was actually on the Women Who Co-works. I think Jen actually recommended joining this. But it were, you know, the rubber like wristbands, like the bracelets, like the Livestrong ones or whatever. They have colored ones, which I had not seen this.
Oh yes, I've seen this. Yeah.
So it's like color coded, and basically you pick between red, yellow, and green on your comfort level. So it's like a visual of your comfort level, so people can like automatically get a quick vibe of like, can I approach this person? Can I not? Like, there it is in the chat. And I thought it was actually really smart. Like, obviously we want to err on like the yellow, red. Like red is like, don't come near me. I'm wearing a mask, like I'm social distancing. Yellow's like, you can come talk to me, but like no touching. And then green, this was, I think, for like events, like small weddings or something like that. But I thought it was kind of a cool idea, just because if you don't know somebody, you automatically have a quick visual to help you kind of gauge the room and the space. And I've shared it with some members and they were all on board. They were like, yeah, I'll totally wear that. So I ordered some. Of course, you can get your logo on it and stuff like that. So it's like a little branded something or another. But I figured I would, we'll try that along with just some of the other things that we've been doing to make sure, just to make people feel comfortable in the space. And to make it a little bit easier to have that conversation, because it's still kind of, I'm getting this like taboo vibe of like, people don't love talking about it. Some people are totally open about it. So what can I do to like reduce that barrier to have these conversations and to make the people in our space feel comfortable? So that's one thing that I'm doing this week that I thought was kind of interesting. But I don't know is that what you saw, Tony? The image that I sent through? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm curious of y'all's thoughts on that too. Like, I mean, is that something that you're just like, no, like, or
I think it's really good, but I think it almost needs more information, because like somebody who's green, I'm not sure I really want to promote hugging in my space. I mean,
Right.
people can do what they want. I don't really, so I might even kind of rewrite those things.
Yeah.
And yellow maybe means I'll talk, but then, I mean, in Pennsylvania, we are supposed to be using masks. And so are people comfortable talking close together with masks or without masks? Not that you want those to be too detailed, but to me, those, the blurbs with them aren't what I would have. I think I would rewrite those blurbs.
Oh yeah, that was just the example that I found. So I will be making it more clear and more like acceptable within our space. Like I'm not giving like, I don't want to be hugged. Like, right. Don't touch me. But I mean, like, so we'll reduce that, like that contact, but still make it a little bit more clear. I'm with you there.
I think it's really good. I hadn't heard of it yet. And so I'm tempted to get some of those wristbands.
They're really inexpensive too. And they get, like I got 300, 100 of each. And I think it was less than $100. You can get your logo or some phrase or anything. There's like a bajillion websites you can order it from. So I figured it was a cheap option to try out and see.
So where I live in California, one of the things that they opened up earlier was churches, especially if they're going to be done outside. And I was talking with some of the members of the leadership for one of our local churches, and they were talking about that. They had come across this idea of wristbands and talking about maybe using that. And kind of the way I view it, I think a lot of people that are kind of promoting these wristbands, I think one of the ways I think they're being used is to say, hey, I'm okay with breaking the rules because I'm comfortable with all that. And I think it would be one thing in public, but I think for those of us that have a space and we're being seen as leaders, I have seen some people use the concept of wristbands and stuff like that to say, well, I'm just going to abdicate. I'm not a moral authority on this. I'm not going to make any rules. I'm uncomfortable with making rules, so I want the members to just kind of figure it out, or whoever it is, the audience, to figure it out for themselves. And it basically says that I'm not going to take responsibility for keeping my community safe. Other people can deal with that. In some cases, I think that's okay. In places where there is kind of a moral authority, like the church, I think was the one that really bothered me. But I think for my space and the way I view it, I think as long as the very lowest level is I'm going to follow the rules, and I'm going to wear a mask in common spaces, and I'm going to, whatever the rules are in your state or your area, I'm going to follow the rules, as long as that's a very bottom level. And we're not compromising on that, but we're saying, okay, but there are people that do want to, like 6 feet isn't enough for some people. So for like those that are above and beyond that, that want that extra space and stuff like that, as long as we're not compromising on saying our number one priority is keeping our members safe and keeping our community safe, I'm afraid that that's the way those tend to go sometimes.
Yeah.
And that's my pushback on those usually.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. Also, in the midst of this, we sent out a community event survey because I'm working with a couple other organizations, and normally we would host community events. And with them, we were struggling trying to figure out some stuff that's going to happen later in the month. And I said, well, let's just survey people. Like, let's just push out to all of our different communities, the people who usually attend this event, and then, you know, the broader area, and like actually get some data on it to see. So I ended it last Wednesday, so July 1st. So I had it running for about 2 weeks and just got a feel for like what Lexington is feeling right now with what's going on in our city and state, you know, how the numbers have increased and whatnot, and gave kind of like because I was having kind of mixed feelings or responses from people about even virtual events, because people I think are just burnt out on stuff, or like, can we do some form of a hybrid, you know, like, so we put all of that stuff in there to just get some information. And I'm working on like compiling a report, so I'll send it to everybody when it's done, just if you want to see the information. But it just kind of helped me gauge like what it is. And then we had, you know, like a comment space, like, what are your additional thoughts? Or like, on top of just like following the state and CDC guidelines, what else matters to you? You know, and I mean, across the board, it's kind of what you expect. There's some people who are like, nope, until there's a vaccination, I'm not going out. Then there's others that are like, if it's outside, if we're social distancing, and if people are wearing masks, I'm feeling more comfortable. And then you have like I'm not going indoors for events, even if it's social distancing, indoors makes me nervous. And then you have the handful that are like, whatever. So, I mean, it helps kind of provide, nothing was like super surprising, but it still helps kind of gauge it. And I plan on revising and kind of redoing it about every month, just because stuff just changes so much. It's really hard to plan on stuff. And, you know, I only have my limited perspective of the people I come in contact on a day-to-day basis. So I'd be happy to share that once I finalize that report, if you guys are interested in seeing just what what people here are saying.
Cool. And then in terms of the marketing side of it, what's the latest on that, you know, from what we talked about last week, Meredith?
Yeah, so we talked with, we have a team that helps us like boost our ads and do all that part of our marketing, and we talked to them, and we had a pretty limited budget, so it's fairly low. Like our budget right now is $1,000 a month. And so we had about 3 different new offerings or revised offerings that we wanted to push out there. And their recommendation was actually to pick one and just really focus on Google ads. And then really just up the ante on all of our organic posts across all social platforms. So we're going to push basically private office space is our primary moneymaker. So if we can get the majority of our private office spaces booked, then we're sitting pretty. And also that really fits better with the current ecosystem. People can come into our space, they can have their own private space and have limited contact with people. So I feel comfortable putting money behind that without being, you know, like distasteful to the current ecosystem. You know, and the other ones, I'm finding we've had an increase in like virtual offices. So people are wanting their business address. And we combined actually the virtual office and our working from home membership. So now they get the perks of the remote package as well. And that just gets people a little bit more engaged in our community, and hopefully eventually they'll like go up in the membership. There's a third point to that, I forget. And then, so we were going to do the Google ads, and then we were going to do a retargeting in Facebook for a specific new market of professionals that we're wanting to bring into the space. So that's kind of where we're putting our money. And I'm just really trying to put a ton of content out there and have all of our social platforms really educating people and just letting people know, you know, the people behind it, who's in the space, what we're doing, the options, the different tiers of membership. I'm working on doing a lot more like blog posts to kind of answer a lot of questions, but also, you know, like be able to be a little bit more in depth of what you can expect and the vibe of our space. So that's where I'm currently at.
Got it. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you're moving in the right direction. It sounds like you've got a good handle on it. So.
Yeah, I mean, really it's bandwidth. I mean, because I do so many different things, like I want to be, but it would seriously be a full-time job to do the level of marketing that I think we need to do. But I'm split in so many different directions that it's like, okay, well, I have a new scheduling platform through our marketing company, so that helps me like be able to schedule stuff out and repeat and like have reoccurring posts and those types of things. So I need to just do like a day and just like knock it out. But I've asked for testimonials from members, really focusing on the people in the community, which I think we talked about last week. And just staying really flexible, because as we all know, next week could be very different.
Yeah.
After the holiday. So, definitely some progress. We still have a lot of work to do, but I think it's a good step forward.
Very good. Very good. I know it's a tricky time. We don't have the same tools available to us, but if you work at you work harder at the ones that you have available, then we can still make progress. And always I know with co-working, there's always more fundamentals to be reinforcing. So,
yeah, I think
cool.
we've learned a lot. I mean, even just as things have shifted, and we're actually in the process of switching our software, which will, once I get through it, will be a godsend, because it will actually take a lot of like the tedious things off my plate, of like the day-to-day operations, which will be great. And it will make, I think, it'll be easier to communicate with our members too. So we'll end up having an app and stuff like that, so people can book through it. We can send announcements. And so for like emergency stuff, like we didn't have a good way of communicating except for like our Slack channel and emails, or me like calling people. So this is going to be a great way in case there is something that actually needs to be pushed out to all of our active members. I'll have that. And
Meredith, what are you switching from into software wise?
so we were originally Happy Desk, which got like bought out by Cube. So it's one software. And it's very complicated, and it's basically they're gonna eventually, they've stopped updating it. So it's become kind of a nightmare. And so we actually are switching to CoWorks, which is a smaller company. I think they're based out of North Carolina, but small team. They actually live and, well, not live, but work out of a co-working space. And they've developed a lot of the functionality because they work in a space and see the needs of the everyday. And their team has been incredibly helpful and responsive. So I'm in the midst of migrating everything. So August 1 is our launch. So I'll let you guys know how it goes, but we do get like a white labeled app, so we can do everything through that instead of me having to do stuff manually. So that'll be great.
Good luck. Yeah, now's a great time to be, if you ever have to be doing a software transition, now's the time.
Right.
Well, let us know how it goes.
Yeah.
Any last minute thoughts? Anything anybody wants to share or ask before we call it a day? Any visible pets or children within arm's reach? Yeah, Sina, you were ready this time. Oh, yeah. Remind us, who is that? Oh, sorry. You're muted.
Yeah, it's Brunhilde. If she's nice, it's Bruni. If she's not nice, it's Brunhilde.
Ah, right, Bruni. Yes.
Yeah, she's like, here you go.
Oh!
Why are you waking me up? Yeah. Yeah. So
beautiful. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. That's the perfect ending to our meeting right there. All right, y'all. Stay safe, stay healthy, keep doing great work. I'll see you in a week.
All right, thanks.
All right, take care, everyone. Bye.